8 From Supermarket Clerk to Fake Fiancée Mafia by Dancia. Chapter 1. Mina Park stood behind the register at the supermarket in a bustling town in the USA, scanning customers' groceries with automatic motions. As she checked the prices, she reflected on how her life seemed the same every day. The only thing that brought her comfort was the Korean dramas she watched during her breaks and her daydreams of a more glamorous life.
That'll be $60.
Mina said, staring at the register screen.
Would you like to pay with cash or card?
The customer in front of her, an elderly woman who looked confused, anxiously rummaged through her wallet.
I think I only have $50 here. Can I pay less?
Mina smiled patiently.
I'm sorry, but we can't accept anything less than the total due. Perhaps you could go back to your car and look for the rest of the money.
The woman sighed deeply and dug back into her wallet, finally finding the missing cash.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank you, dear.
As the elderly woman finally left, Mina glanced at the wall clock and frowned.
Just a few more hours until my shift ends.
She murmured to herself. Suddenly, her cell phone vibrated in her pocket. Mina pulled it out to see Ji-yoon's name on the screen. She answered with enthusiasm.
Hello, Ji-yoon. What's up? Hey, Mina. I need your help.
Ji-yoon's voice came through the line.
There's an important event tonight, and I need you to deliver food to a restaurant. Please?
Mina felt her heart skip a beat.
A restaurant? I've never been to a fancy restaurant before. What do I need to do? It's nothing complicated.
Ji-yoon replied.
Just deliver the food. I know you might be busy, but I really need your help. I promise I'll treat you to dinner afterward.
Mina laughed softly.
Okay, then. I'll come. Don't forget to treat me.
A few hours later, Mina exited the supermarket, carrying a bag of prepared food. She headed to the upscale restaurant located downtown. Mina Park was living her familiar routine at the supermarket. Her days were filled with answering questions about prices and dealing with customers who forgot how much money they had. This daily grind had become incredibly monotonous, and Mina often daydreamed about a more glamorous life, perhaps becoming a movie star or simply getting a big discount at an expensive restaurant. So, when Ji-yoon, her friend who worked at the fancy restaurant, asked Mina to deliver food tonight, she felt like she had received an invitation to join a VIP celebration. Even though she had to step out of her comfort zone, Mina was excited to imagine what it would be like to sneak into a world filled with luxury and glamorous fashion.
Don't forget, Mina.
Ji-yoon reminded her over the phone.
I need this food for private VIP meeting tonight. Don't be late. Don't worry, Ji-yoon, I'm all set.
Mina replied, checking her bag to make sure the food containers were secure. She nodded to herself with determination and ended the call, thinking about how spectacular tonight would be. With the bag of food in hand, Mina stepped out toward the restaurant. However, as soon as she walked through the door, the glamorous atmosphere she had envisioned seemed to transform into a battlefield. Tables surrounded by patrons in evening gowns and expensive suits created a serene ambience that suddenly erupted into chaos as Mina looked around.
Yikes.
She thought.
Did I walk into a fashion gala or a mafia meeting?
As she arrived, the restaurant's atmosphere was a stark contrast to her everyday life. The waitstaff dressed in all black and the luxurious-looking guests made Mina feel as if she had stepped into an entirely different world.
Excuse me.
Mina said to a waiter standing near the entrance.
I'm here to deliver food. I'm looking for Ji-yoon.
The waiter shot her a somewhat cynical glance.
Oh, you must be Mina. Ji-yoon is over there, in the corner.
Mina tried to avoid bumping into other guests and carefully made her way toward Ji-yoon. However, disaster struck when she stumbled over the edge of a slightly protruding table.
Oh no.
Mina cried out as the bag of food slipped from her hands and slid toward the main table occupied by the infamous mafia boss, Leo Salvatore.
Whoa.
Mina exclaimed as the food flew into the air and landed messily on the main table. And who was sitting at that table? Leo Salvatore, the mafia boss known for his impressive reputation, sat calmly in his chair. The food splattered onto Leo and his entourage, staining their expensive suits with tomato sauce and pasta. Leo, a man with a chilling gaze and an intimidating aura, quickly stood up, staring at Mina, who was frozen in shock.
What's going on here?
Leo asked, his tone furious.
Who's responsible for this mess? I am sorry.
In an instant, Ji-yoon bolted the moment she saw Mina causing a ruckus with the mafia boss.
Is this some kind of joke?
Leo asked in a cold voice, standing tall as he glared at Mina with an expression that could freeze flames. Mina stood paralyzed, unable to look away from Leo in fear.
I am sorry. This is my fault.
She stammered, her voice trembling.
I was just delivering food and... fault.
Leo's tone dripped with icy impatience. He stepped closer, the weight of his presence pressing down on her.
You're right about that. I had an important meeting tonight, a very important meeting, and you stormed in here like a hurricane, destroying everything. Do you work at this restaurant? Are you looking to be fired?
Mina's breath hitched as she glanced at the mess she had caused. Tomato sauce and pasta clung to Leo's expensive suit, a stark crimson stain spreading across the dark fabric. The sight of his enraged expression made her stomach twist into knots. As Mina opened her mouth to apologize again, one of Leo's men leaned in and whispered something to him. The man's words were low and quick, but Mina caught fragments of it.
Boss, maybe we can turn this around. She's mixed Asian, similar to Miss Soto. She could.
Leo's eyes narrowed as he listened, his jaw tightening. His gaze flickered to Mina briefly, studying her as if she were a piece of a puzzle he hadn't considered before. The seconds dragged on like hours before Leo finally straightened and nodded slightly.
Right.
He muttered, almost to himself. Then, with a dramatic gesture, he pointed directly at Mina.
You. Girl.
Mina flinched, startled.
Why yes, sir.
She stammered, her voice barely above a whisper. Leo stepped closer, his intense eyes locked onto hers.
Tonight, you're going to be my fiancée.
The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Mina stared at him, her eyes wide with disbelief.
Your fiancée?
She repeated, her voice cracking. Leo nodded, his expression calculating.
Exactly. My real fiancée, Miss Soto, is missing, and I can't afford for anyone to notice. You've already disrupted this meeting, so you're going to fix it by filling in for her tonight.
Mina's heart raced as her mind struggled to process his words.
But I don't know anything about being someone's fiancée.
She protested, her voice shaking. Leo's eyes narrowed, his tone firm and unyielding.
You don't need to know anything. Just follow my lead. Smile, nod, and keep your mouth shut. No one will question it. This is crazy.
Mina exclaimed, taking a step back.
I'm just a supermarket clerk. I can't.
Leo cut her off, his voice sharp and final.
You can, and you will. This isn't up for debate. You've already caused enough problems tonight. Consider this your chance to make up for it.
Mina opened her mouth, trying to find the right words.
But
Chapter 2. Leo ignored Mina's protests with a cold stare.
what you know or don't know doesn't matter. What's important is that you're going to come with me and pretend to be my fiancé until I can sort this out.
Mina felt as if she had just been trapped in the silliest slapstick comedy film.
But why me?
Leo furrowed his brow, his icy voice slicing through the tension.
Because you're here, and it doesn't seem like there are any other options. So let's get this done.
Mina swallowed hard, trying to suppress her embarrassment and panic.
But I'm not ready for this. I don't even know how to be a fiancé.
Leo showed no sign of sympathy.
That's your problem. I don't care how you do it, but you have to pretend to be my fiancé until I can resolve this situation.
Mina sighed deeply and followed Leo toward the restaurant door.
But what if I do something wrong? What if I don't fit this role?
Leo merely stared at her with a flat expression.
You just need to act according to instructions. I don't have time to explain any further.
Mina could only follow Leo out of the restaurant, trying to manage the embarrassment and panic swirling within her. Leo seemed largely indifferent to her feelings. He was solely focused on figuring out how to fix the mess that had just unfolded. As they walked toward Leo's car, Mina felt like a comedy movie star experiencing the worst day of her life. Inside the car, the atmosphere was awkward. Mina sat in the passenger seat with a blank stare, trying to comprehend the ridiculous situation she had just encountered. Leo sat beside her, his expression serious as he attempted to devise a plan for how they would address this problem.
You know,
Leo said, trying to break the ice.
I don't often find myself in such ridiculous situations. And I don't often get caught in situations like this either.
Mina replied, half joking.
It feels like I've just slipped into a completely different world.
Leo pulled out his phone and checked a few messages, seemingly unfazed by the absurdity of the moment.
How about we clarify a few things?
He suggested.
You're going to stay here tonight and pretend to be my fiancé. I'll tell you what you need to do. I think I'd prefer to know how to survive in a fancy restaurant than be a fake fiancé.
Mina responded, half amused and half stressed.
But okay, I'll do it. Just please let me go afterward.
Leo shot her a sharp look.
Quit whining.
He huffed, appearing impatient. Mina could only sigh. They approached the luxurious car waiting outside. Leo opened the door and allowed Mina to enter first before following her in. As the car started moving, Mina looked out the window, feeling as if she were stepping into a world vastly different from her everyday life. The vehicle came to a stop in front of a magnificent mansion, far more extravagant than anything Mina had ever imagined. The building stood majestically with its large pillars and neatly manicured gardens, looking both impressive and somewhat intimidating.
Wow.
Mina whispered, awestruck by the luxury before her. Leo opened the car door and stepped out, followed reluctantly by Mina. He offered a thin smile that didn't quite reach his eyes as he guided her toward the mansion's front door.
Welcome to my new world,
he said in a cold tone that made Mina feel even more anxious. As Mina entered the mansion with cautious steps, she felt a dramatic shift from her daily routine. The walls adorned with gold leaf, sparkling crystal chandeliers, and antique furnishings made her feel as though she had stepped into a very expensive film. Leo led Mina to a spacious guest room, where he introduced her to several family members and followers. They seemed accustomed to the glamorous life and the chaos surrounding them.
This is Mina,
Leo said firmly, pointing her out to a group busy arranging an extravagant feast around a large dining table.
She'll be my fiancée tonight.
Mina attempted a friendly smile, though she felt stiff and awkward under all the scrutiny.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Some nodded in confusion, while others looked skeptical.
All right.
Leo said as they stood in the living room.
It's time to start your role as my fake fiancé. Don't worry, this is only temporary.
Mina nodded, trying to stay calm despite her racing heart. She felt as if she had just been thrown into a ludicrous comedy scenario.
Okay, sir.
She said.
I'll do my best. It's just one night, right? Besides, I'm curious what it's like to live as a mafia fiancé.
She murmured quietly. Mina gazed at the grand mansion before her, her eyes widening.
Oh wow. So, this is your house?
She said, half whispering as if afraid the building might hear her and take offense. Leo looked at her with an arrogant smile.
Yes, this is my house. Or more accurately, my castle. Let's go inside, we have a lot to do.
He stepped in confidently, and Mina could only follow in awe. Leo's home was far more luxurious than Mina had ever imagined. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and expensive paintings that looked as if they had come from a world-class museum decorated every corner of the space.
It's like a dream.
Mina muttered, glancing around with wide eyes.
It feels like a royal palace. You must be joking, right?
Leo glanced at her.
Trust me, this isn't a dream, and I rarely joke.
Mina chuckled softly, trying to lighten the mood.
Well, if that's the case, maybe I should pinch myself to make sure I'm not asleep. I suggest you don't.
Leo replied flatly.
I don't want blood on my marble floors.
Mina stifled a small laugh, trying to hide her astonishment at Leo's demeanor.
All right, so what's the next step, boss?
Leo led her through a long hallway flanked by large pillars, toward a living room that resembled a royal meeting hall more than a regular lounge. There, a long dining table stretched out, complete with luxurious chairs that looked more comfortable than the sofa in Mina's home. On the table, exquisite dishes were neatly arranged, appearing more artistic than filling.
Okay, here's what you need to know.
Leo said, turning to Mina with his hands on his hips, like a teacher explaining an important lesson to an unprepared student.
You have to pretend to be my fiancé. That means you must follow a few rules. First, always smile. Second, don't speak unless spoken to. Third, if anyone asks, you are my long-lost true love.
Mina nodded, although she felt as if she were participating in an impromptu play for which she had not prepared.
Okay, smile, be silent, and pretend to be true love. Easy, right?
Mina tried to appear confident, though her heart raced as if it wanted to leap out of her chest. Chapter 3.
It's not that simple.
Leo smirked, flashing a grin that resembled the sly smile of a villain in a movie.
This isn't a drama. This is life.
Mina let out a long sigh and nodded again, trying to calm herself.
Okay, I'll do my best.
She was dressed in an elegant evening gown, a soft blue adorned with sparkling sequins that twinkled like stars in the night sky. The dress fit her perfectly, accentuating her curves and making her look graceful, though inside, she felt like a lost child at a grown-up party. Her hair was styled in an intricate updo, decorated with jeweled pins that reflected the light, adding to her glamorous appearance. Her face was flawlessly made up, making Mina barely recognize herself in the mirror. With every step she took, Mina felt as if she were walking on an extravagant theater stage. Every movement felt like it was being watched by 1,000 eyes, and despite her efforts to appear calm, she could only laugh at the absurdity of the situation. Leo, dressed in a perfectly tailored black tuxedo with a bow tie, walked beside her with confident strides, as if they were a celebrity couple attending a prestigious award ceremony. His smile was wide and exuded confidence, but to Mina, it resembled the cunning grin of a high-class criminal in a parody film. She had to stifle a laugh as she watched Leo, serious yet amusing in her eyes. For him, this might be a daily routine, but for Mina, it was an experience far removed from her normal life. Every time Leo smiled and waved to those who greeted them along the corridor, Mina felt like she was acting in a scenario she had never agreed to. As they stepped into the dining room, which resembled a town hall with its high ceilings and large crystal chandeliers swaying gently, Mina held her breath. The room was adorned with exotic flowers neatly arranged in expensive vases, and classical music softly played from a corner, enhancing the luxurious yet slightly tense atmosphere.
All right.
Leo whispered, leaning closer to Mina's ear.
Remember, smile and don't speak unless you're spoken to.
Mina nodded, trying to force her best smile.
Okay, smile and stay silent. I can do that.
A long dining table covered with a pristine white tablecloth was filled with guests neatly seated in their chairs. Among them were mafia members who looked more like magazine models than gangsters. Their suits were sharply tailored, made from luxurious fabrics that shimmered under the light, while their ties matched the color of their partners' gowns. Mina slid into her seat beside Leo, attempting to mimic their elegant movements, even though she felt incredibly awkward. She noticed that the faces around her looked impeccably groomed, with flawless skin that seemed to have been treated at the best salons daily. Their hair was perfectly styled, not a strand out of place, and a faint scent of expensive perfume lingered in the air, creating a blend of aromas that made Mina slightly dizzy. They looked more like VIP guests at a high-fashion party than dangerous criminals who were supposed to lurk in the shadows. A man in a grey pinstripe suit, with a burgundy tie and neatly groomed mustache, caught Mina's attention as he began speaking in a loud yet smooth voice.
I've always believed that a three-piece suit is more than just clothing, it's a statement of class and influence. Don't you agree?
He said, glancing at Leo, who nodded as if they were discussing the most important topic in life. Mina looked at Leo, hoping he would help her understand the topic of conversation. But Leo simply smiled thinly and raised his wine glass, as if this was a perfectly normal discussion. Mina could only offer a stiff smile, feeling increasingly lost amidst discussions about fashion, the latest trends, and high-end tastes. Occasionally, guests mentioned the names of renowned designers as if they were talking about old friends, leaving Mina more confused about the world she had just entered. She felt like she was playing in a theater filled with jokes, but everyone around her was playing it straight. She glanced around, trying to blend in while continuing to smile as Leo had taught her. She noticed a woman across the table in a dazzling gold gown that was almost blinding. The woman sat gracefully, crossing her legs and smiling widely as she discussed her latest jewelry collection, which, in her opinion, was far too
mainstream
for high-class tastes. Leo glanced at Mina from time to time, watching how she was trying to adapt to this strange situation. He looked satisfied as he saw Mina managing to get by with nothing but a fake smile and polite nods. However, Mina felt as if she were in the wrong movie. She wanted to scream.
Where's the crime drama? Where's the tension?
But she held back, doing her best to appear elegant and not draw too much attention to herself. When the main course was served, Mina realized the dishes looked more like works of art than something edible. Small cuts of meat arranged with colorful sauces and unusual flower garnishes made her hesitate to touch her fork. Meanwhile, the guests around her continued their conversations, jumping from one designer to another as if this were an exclusive meeting of fashion critics. A well-groomed man dressed like a runway model opened a conversation that made Mina choke on her drink.
Did you see the latest collection from that famous designer? It's so avant-garde.
Mina glanced at Leo with wide eyes, seeking guidance. Leo just nodded gravely, as if this topic was of utmost importance.
Yes, very chic.
Leo agreed seriously, leaving Mina even more confused. Mina mumbled quietly enough for Leo to hear.
I thought they'd be talking about mafia business, not fashion shows.
A woman across the table, dressed in a gown that sparkled brighter than the crystal chandeliers above them, overheard Mina's murmur and stared at her with an odd smile.
Oh, dear, the mafia world is vast. Fashion is big business too, you know.
Mina could only return a stiff smile and nod. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This night was so far from what she had imagined when Leo invited her to his home. In her mind, the mafia world had always been filled with action, tension, and discussions about grand plans to conquer rivals or smuggle goods, not light chatter about fashion trends and jewelry. Chapter 4. In the midst of the guests' conversation, a man in a grey pinstripe suit, with a burgundy tie and a neatly trimmed mustache, opened the discussion.
So, Leo, I hear your fiancé is a fashionista too. Is that right?
He glanced at Mina with eager anticipation. Mina nervously looked at Leo, but he simply offered a small smile.
Oh, absolutely. She has exquisite taste in everything. Don't you agree, darling?
Mina swallowed hard, trying to act confident.
Yes. Fashion is, very important. Especially dresses that, comfortable to wear.
She smiled awkwardly, hoping her answer would suffice to avoid embarrassing Leo. The man nodded, satisfied.
Oh, of course, comfort is everything. I always choose the best fabrics for my suits, don't I?
He straightened his jacket as if showcasing a piece from a renowned designer. As she averted her gaze from the man, Mina whispered to Leo, "This is really strange. I thought they would talk about business, the more dangerous stuff." Leo suppressed a small laugh and replied softly,
Welcome to the real world, Mina. Even the mafia needs time to unwind. Focus on your role.
Moments later, a woman across the table, dressed in a sparkling gown that seemed to compete with the crystal chandelier above them, addressed Mina.
Darling, your dress is absolutely stunning. Which collection is it from? I've seen many blue dresses this season, but the one you're wearing is truly different.
Mina was momentarily stunned, searching for an answer that wouldn't make her look foolish. Thank you. The designer might not be famous, but I like designs that are unique and not too mainstream. The woman beamed, clearly impressed.
Oh, absolutely. I also adore exclusive styles, nothing like the boring mass trends.
Leo patted Mina's back proudly.
See? You're adapting well. Keep it up.
Mina smiled, even though she was still confused by everything happening around her. The conversation continued to flow from fashion to art, from art to wine, as if they were at a high society event, not a mafia meeting. As dinner began, Mina tasted the food that looked more like art than a dish.
This is really small.
She whispered to Leo.
Is this an appetizer or the main course?
Leo chuckled softly.
That is indeed the meal. Remember, eat slowly and savor every bite. This isn't a place for filling up but for style.
When the main course was served, Mina struggled to follow the conversation, feeling as though she were listening to a foreign language. Leo seemed to be enjoying the situation, observing Mina trapped in the absurdity of the night with a small smile on his face.
What are we doing here?
Mina asked, whispering to Leo while pinching a small roll from her plate.
Surviving.
Leo replied flatly, taking a small piece of meat into his mouth.
Here, life and death can depend on how well you adapt. I didn't know surviving in the mafia meant knowing the latest Gucci collection.
Mina replied cynically. Leo chuckled and shook his head. Mina felt like Alice lost in Wonderland. Every corner of Leo's mansion was a new world she had never imagined, and everyone in it seemed like characters from a bizarre story she had never read. She tried to follow the conversation but felt lost among discussions of the latest trends and expensive jewelry. Next to her, a woman in a sparkling gown regaled the table with tales of her latest diamond collection, while a man in an elegant suit talked about private jets and villas on the Riviera. Mina could only nod and smile widely whenever someone glanced her way, hoping no one noticed that she understood less than half of the ongoing conversations. Leo watched her with a thin smile, appreciating her silly yet endearing efforts. He was impressed by Mina's attempts to fit in, even though it was clear that this was not her world. Mina glanced around the room, observing the mafia members engrossed in discussions about fabric materials, seasonal colors, and rare jewelry. She felt as if she were in a luxury reality show on TV, but without any cameras recording her every move.
This is insane.
She murmured. After dinner, Leo pulled Mina aside.
You did quite well, better than I expected.
Mina rolled her eyes, exhaling in relief.
Oh, thanks. But you didn't tell me I had to know about the latest designer collections to survive in the mafia.
Leo let out a low chuckle, his voice barely above a whisper.
You'll get used to it. This is just the beginning.
Mina raised an eyebrow, feeling skeptical.
Beginning of what? A daily fashion parade.
But before Leo could respond, the atmosphere suddenly shifted. In the distance, the sound of shattering glass pierced the air, followed by a hysterical scream that shattered the silence. Leo immediately stood up, his expression turning serious as he scanned the room with a wary gaze.
Stay here.
He ordered tersely, his eyes sharp like an eagle hunting its prey. Panic surged within Mina as she grabbed his arm.
What's happening? Are we in danger?
Leo looked at her firmly.
Stay here.
He repeated, his tone leaving no room for protest, then he sprinted toward the source of the chaos, leaving Mina alone with her racing heart. Mina stood frozen in the middle of the room, confused and terrified. Suddenly, the sound of gunfire erupted from outside, causing Mina to flinch in fear. She quickly crouched down and sought refuge behind a large sofa nearby. The commotion grew louder, the sounds of overturned furniture and hurried footsteps filled the space. Mina peered out from behind the sofa, her heart pounding, trying to make sense of what was happening. Several armed men burst in, their faces concealed by black ski masks, and they began shooting at anyone in sight. Leo and his men immediately responded, returning fire. Mina felt like she was in an action movie, except this was real, and she had no script to tell her what to do. Bullets whizzed by, shattering expensive vases and breaking the large windows that overlooked the garden. She spotted Leo, who appeared heroic amidst the gunfire. He moved swiftly from one cover to another, occasionally returning fire with impressive accuracy. On the other side of the room, some of Leo's family members were busy protecting themselves behind the now chaotic dining tables. A few of them looked injured, bloodstains beginning to tarnish the once pristine marble floor. Mina swallowed hard, feeling her entire body tremble. She tried to lower herself further, hoping not to be seen by the attackers.
Oh God, I didn't sign up for this.
She whispered, more to herself than anyone else around her. Chapter 5. Amidst the chaos, Leo managed to crawl over to Mina, crouching beside her. His face was slick with sweat, but his eyes remained focused.
We need to get out of here.
Leo said, his voice firm yet calm.
Follow me and stay low. Don't let yourself be seen.
Mina nodded, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She felt her body trembling, but she tried to control her breathing. They crawled across the floor, avoiding shards of glass and bullets flying overhead. Mina could feel the cold marble beneath her palms, and every second stretched like an eternity filled with tension. As they made their way toward the exit, Mina almost fell, her legs shaking uncontrollably. Leo quickly grabbed her hand and pulled her up, but before they could take another step, a loud explosion echoed outside, making the entire building shudder violently. Mina fell back to the floor, clutching Leo's shoulder to steady herself.
Ah.
Mina winced in pain as her knee slammed against the floor. She ran behind Leo, struggling to keep up with his rapid pace despite her trembling limbs from the earlier gunfire. As they neared the exit, gunfire erupted again, and this time it was closer than before. Mina tried to quicken her pace, but suddenly she felt a searing pain in her thigh. She gasped, losing her balance and crashing to the floor. Mina groaned in agony, staring at her thigh, which was now bleeding. Blood seeped out, soaking into the fabric of her evening gown.
I've been shot.
Mina screamed hysterically, feeling the heat from the open wound. Her hands trembled as she touched the blood flowing freely.
I'm really shot.
She cried out, panic in her eyes and breath coming in quick gasps.
This is a real gun, with real bullets.
Leo immediately turned around, seeing Mina sprawled on the floor with a gunshot wound in her thigh. His expression shifted from calm to a mix of irritation and concern.
Of course.
Leo snapped as he knelt beside her.
Did you think this was a game?
As he spoke, Leo quickly pulled a handkerchief from his jacket pocket and tied it around Mina's thigh, just above the wound, to staunch the bleeding.
Am I going to die? Am I going to die?
Mina babbled in panic, her voice shaking as she grasped Leo's arm.
Oh God, it hurts so much. Am I going to die like this? Be quiet, Mina.
Leo urged, trying to remain calm, though his mind was split between keeping her alive and fighting off the approaching attackers. Leo's hands worked quickly to press the handkerchief tightly, ensuring it was tight enough to reduce the blood flow. You're not going to die if you stay calm and... Don't panic. Mina moaned, tears streaming down her cheeks.
Oh crap, am I really going to die like this? I'm still a virgin.
She wailed in desperation, the pain mixing with overwhelming fear. Leo, who was busy repositioning himself to shoot from a safer angle, suddenly froze at Mina's outburst. He turned to her with a puzzled expression, clearly distracted by her unexpected confession.
Huh? You're still a virgin?
He asked, half in disbelief, though his gaze remained alert.
Of course.
Mina snapped, annoyed, though her face was still contorted in pain.
Do you think I'm joking?
Leo fell silent for a moment, almost forgetting the perilous situation they were in. He glanced at Mina briefly, weighing the seriousness of her condition.
How old are you? 22.
Mina answered quickly, though she was still shaken by pain and fear. Her mind was racing, struggling to focus on anything other than the wound in her thigh. Leo furrowed his brow, refocusing on shooting at the encroaching enemy.
Huh? What have you been doing for 22 years that you're still a virgin?
He asked, half complaining and half curious, peeking out from behind the table that served as their cover. Mina glared at Leo, then impulsively flicked his forehead without thinking.
Oh? How rude. Of course I've been busy making money while studying. I haven't had time for dating.
Leo paused for a moment, feeling the light slap from Mina, which was not hard enough to hurt but surprising nonetheless. He looked at Mina with a mixed expression, part annoyance, part confusion, and maybe just a hint of amusement. But in an instant, Mina regretted it when she saw Leo's gaze sharpen into something frightening. The look was like a knife piercing her soul, and Mina felt her heart nearly stop.
Don't ever do that again.
Leo's voice was low and deep, almost hissing, sending chills down Mina's spine. Mina fell silent, her fear escalating not just because of the dangerous situation around them, but because of Leo as well. She nodded slowly, realizing she had made a mistake. She tried to calm herself, even though the pain in her thigh continued to torment her. Leo redirected his attention back to the attackers, focusing intently on keeping them alive. He shot with precision, making sure that every bullet fired wasn't wasted. Meanwhile, Mina attempted to take a deep breath, trying to ease the unbearable pain. Cold sweat trickled down her forehead, and she began to feel dizzy from blood loss.
Leo, I feel dizzy.
Mina said softly, her voice growing weaker.
I don't know how much longer I can hold on.
Leo glanced at her, his eyes showing clear concern despite his efforts to hide it.
Hang in there, Mina. I'm going to get you out of here. Don't die on me yet.
Mina nodded weakly, even as her vision began to blur. She fought to stay conscious with every ounce of strength she had left. Leo refocused on the attackers, shooting quickly and skillfully, trying to protect Mina while searching for an escape route. After a while, the gunfire from the attackers began to dwindle. Leo realized they had a chance to flee. He quickly grabbed Mina, pulling her up even though she could barely stand. Mina groaned in pain as her weight pressed against her injured leg, but Leo supported her expertly.
Hold on tight.
Leo said, his voice firm yet caring.
We're getting out of here now.
Mina concentrated, gripping Leo as tightly as she could. They moved swiftly toward the exit, even as Mina stumbled and struggled against the pain. Leo fired a few more shots to cover their movement, ensuring no one was following them. When they finally made it outside, Leo immediately searched for a safe place. He found a relatively hidden alley and carefully lowered Mina down there. She slumped weakly, her face pale and her body trembling violently.
I'll go get help.
Leo spoke quickly as he searched for his phone.
We need to get out of here, and you need a doctor.
Mina nodded faintly, her vision beginning to fade.
Leo, don't leave me. I'm really scared.
Leo paused for a moment, looking down at Mina, who lay weakly.
Don't talk too much. Save your strength.
He said gently, though his tone still sounded like a command. Chapter 6. He pressed the numbers on his phone and waited for someone to pick up on the other end. When the connection was established, Leo spoke quickly in a language Mina didn't recognize, likely instructing someone to come and pick them up. After finishing the call, Leo knelt beside Mina again, pressing the emergency bandage harder against her thigh.
You're going to be okay, Mina. Don't worry.
Mina looked at Leo, even though her eyes were growing heavier.
I don't want to die, Leo. I still have so much left to do.
Leo stared at Mina seriously, then reached for her hand and held it tightly.
You're not going to die. Not today. You still have plenty of time, trust me.
Mina felt a bit calmer with Leo's words. Although her body continued to tremble, her panic started to subside. She tried to regulate her breathing, struggling to stay conscious even as dizziness threatened to overwhelm her. A few minutes later, the sound of an approaching engine could be heard. A black SUV stopped at the end of the alley, and several men quickly exited, moving toward Leo and Mina. Leo gave brief instructions, and one of the men carefully lifted Mina into the vehicle. Leo sat beside her, ensuring she was in a comfortable position despite the cramped space.
We'll be in a safe place soon,
Leo said, his voice a little softer this time.
Just hang in there.
Could only nod weakly, feeling exhausted. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of Leo beside her be the only thing that provided her with a sense of safety. Even though the pain from her injury was still intense, Mina tried to focus her thoughts on one thing: the will to survive. Inside the speeding SUV, Leo remained alert, occasionally checking on Mina's condition. In Leo's family-owned hospital, the atmosphere was tense and bustling as Mina was rushed into the emergency operating room. Bright lights hung from the ceiling, and the sounds of medical machinery filled the space. Nurses and doctors, accustomed to emergency situations, moved swiftly, setting up 4 drips and preparing equipment. Leo stood outside the operating room, his face serious, though a hint of sweat glistened on his forehead. For the first time in a long while, Leo felt powerless, a sensation that was very unusual for him. After about an hour, the operating room lights finally dimmed, signaling that the procedure was complete. A calm-faced doctor with a thin beard stepped out, removing his surgical mask as he approached Leo.
How is she, doctor?
Leo immediately asked, his voice filled with tension he tried to conceal. The doctor offered a slight smile.
The bullet has been removed, and the bleeding has stopped. She's lucky, no vital organs were hit, just the thigh muscle that needed stitching. We've administered a strong anesthetic, so she may be a bit incoherent when she wakes up.
Leo exhaled in relief, though the tension had not fully dissipated.
Thank you, doctor,
he said, reflexively running his hand through his hair, a habit he had when anxious. The doctor nodded.
She's stable now. We'll be moving her to recovery shortly. You can see her in a bit, but remember, she may still be half conscious.
Leo smiled faintly.
I'll make sure she's okay,
he said, patting the doctor on the shoulder before entering the recovery room. Inside, Mina lay in a bed with an 4 in her arm, her face slightly pale, but her breathing was calm. Her eyes were half closed, still under the influence of the anesthetic that kept her in a liminal state between consciousness and dreams. Leo sat in a chair beside her bed, watching as Mina slowly began to open her eyes. Mina blinked a few times, trying to focus on Leo's figure beside her.
Leo?
Her voice was hoarse and quiet, like someone waking from a very long sleep. Leo smiled, this time a genuine smile that was rarely seen.
I'm here, Mina. You're safe now. The surgery went well.
Mina managed a weak smile, her eyes still half closed.
You look so handsome, like a prince.
She said, her voice drifting.
I thought I was dreaming.
Leo chuckled at Mina's words. He leaned back in his chair, feeling more relaxed.
Oh really? Is that so?
He replied teasingly, his eyes narrowing as he looked at Mina, who appeared so innocent in her drugged state. Nodded slowly, her gaze slightly blurry. But earnest.
Yes. You're my prince. I want to marry you.
She continued in a soft but clear voice, her lips forming a sweet smile.
And have children with you. Like in fairy tales.
Leo almost choked on his laughter. He covered his mouth with his hand, trying to contain himself but failing completely. A small giggle escaped his lips.
Oh, this is interesting.
Leo murmured, watching Mina, who continued to babble under the influence of the anesthetic.
You want to marry me and have kids, huh? What else do you want?
Mina took a deep breath, as if dreaming about a perfect life.
I want a big house, and a flower garden, and a cute little dog, and the two of us lounging in the sunshine, you know, like in romantic movies.
She said, closing her eyes again and smiling widely. Leo shook his head, unable to hold back his laughter any longer.
A big house, a flower garden, and a little dog, huh? Wow, you really have big plans.
Leo replied, still entertained by Mina's unusual ramblings.
What else do you want, young lady?
Mina opened her eyes again, this time her eyes sparkling as if she were imagining a bright future.
I want to vacation in Paris, and ride in a hot air balloon, with you, of course.
Mina stated confidently, though Leo knew she likely didn't even realize what she was saying. Leo nodded, following the increasingly absurd conversation.
Paris, hot air balloons. Great idea. Maybe we could also eat croissants while admiring the Eiffel Tower.
Leo said, rolling his eyes but unable to hide the smile on his face. Mina let out a small laugh, a soft and sweet sound, as if she were truly imagining it all.
Yes, croissants, and also, drinking wine, looking over the city from above. Ah, life is beautiful.
Mina sighed.
But most importantly, you have to love me every day, and make me laugh.
Leo paused momentarily at Mina's last words, still wearing a laughing expression. This time, his laughter ceased, and he looked at Mina with a different gaze. There was something in the way Mina expressed herself, even under the influence of the drug, that sounded sincere and pure. Leo fell silent, momentarily reminded that behind all the jokes and silly chatter was someone who had just risked her life in a world far from her comfort zone.
Congratulations! You have finished listening to the current content.